we're going to Canada, eh? Actually, I was very surprised that this came up so early in my book challenge because living in the US, I always saw Canada as a nicer, saner version of us with more bears. However, I vaguely knew that they had a rich Indigenous history, so for some reason, I decided to look for a graphic novel that was by one of the 3 Indigenous groups. So those 3 groups would be First Nations, Inuit, or Métis, which is a mix of the colonizers and the Indigenous people. By colonizers, I mean mostly French people. As I conducted my search, I was very lucky to find this in my library. And it's nice because you wouldn't think that a library would have a graphic novel about Canadian Indigenous history, but it was right there in the teen section. So while there are sad things, it's in the teen section, so it wouldn't be disturbing like a adult graphic novel might make it. So essentially, this place, 150 Years Retold, is a collection of small graphic novel chapters by artists from a variety of Canadian cultures and tribes. And you can just tell how different. The art is so different, but each one is so beautiful. Is that a good view? I'm trying out the ring light for the first time and not using the backward cam, so I hope this works out. So, as you can see, it starts from the 1800s and then it goes all the way to modern times and a peek into a fantasy world too. I actually wanted to see more of that. So basically it's a history of French colonization, but each story provides you with a glimpse into the language, the mythology, the traditions. Instead of a cold textbook, it's nice because you care about these people and their lives, and some of them are real too, and it puts a personality and a spirit to someone who would otherwise just be a portrait and name. Also, I've never seen native post-apocalyptic Canada done before, so I thought this was beautiful and amazing. Like I said, it can get pretty depressing, even though there are sparks of hope here and there, which is nice. I knew their treatment would be at least as bad as how the US treated the Native Americans, but I think the most upsetting thing I read about was the 60s scoop. Basically, that's a very cute term for when they went to the Indigenous Peoples families during the 60s and I think through the 90s, and they just took them from their parents and raised them in white foster families or residential schools. Even if the family was perfectly fine, had enough money, etc., etc., the fact that they aren't white meant that the child could never be civilized. And the foster care was about as lovely as it is in the US, which is to say abusive and awful. I can't speak for other countries, but also made me think about how French people punished their own citizens when they spoke patois, a dialect. The government wanted everyone speaking Parisian French, so let's say you were West in Breton, where they have a very Celtic-inspired dialect. If they caught you speaking it with your friends at school, you would be strictly punished. So if they're that harsh to their own people, then of course they're going to want to stamp out any sort of indigenous culture. But on the bright side, they did show a lot of activism, reconnecting to the culture, the government slowly making good changes. Once again, unlike a textbook, this visual is very good. Everyone says Canada's so nice, but it looks like the police treat peaceful protesters the same way. Anyway, I'm so happy they're keeping the culture alive, and it's important that this graphic novel is published for the revival effort. Alright everyone, that was book number 3, 197 more to go.